nowadays. Coming from a bad place, oh yeah. Tryna be a better me just for you. But it ain't easy, it's hard to get used to. Minding my own from a bad place, oh yeah. Tryna be a better me just for you. But it ain't easy, it's hard to get used to. Minding my own business, I'm not worried about what he do. Cause nowadays all it is to be see-through. I always said this is that I'm staying around people. Finding my own path like I'm writing my own sequel. Two-faced people all around, they be equal. 2021, you can never trust nobody. Good and bad thoughts on my mind, they be crowded. Pushing to get past his limits, then he see he bought it. Family work hard, but I never guess I'm found it. Came a long way in my dream, now I be drawn it. They dying, I got some hearts pounded. Multi-talented, my passion, I haven't found it. Yeah, in my home, I was never ever doubted. Coming from a bad place, oh yeah. Tryna be a better me just for you. But it ain't easy, it's hard to get used to. Minding my own business, I'm not worried about what he do. Cause nowadays, all it makes to be see-through. I always said this is that I'm staying around people.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Top 8 show. Today, I got the one and only Ty Chelsea session with me today. I hope you guys enjoy this show because we got a lot to talk about today, to be quite honest. You know, the Premier League title, you know, as it's already decided, you know, with Liverpool, you know, leading the pack. So we got a lot we're going to dive into today. So how are you doing today, brother Ty?
Yeah, I'm somewhat disappointed. I was really hoping Southampton would have been able to keep Liverpool at bay, but it is what it is.
Yeah, you know, it was really surprising the way Southampton come out today. You know, that young kid that was at Chelsea, the right winger. You know, he's very talented player. You know, he remind me of a young Ian Robin. You know, it caused Liverpool a whole lot of problems, and that's I wish we're gonna delve into a little bit. But you know, there's another twist. You know, a big twist. You know, which you guys can see on the title. You know, of the video. You know, have Manchester City. Where do you want to start, Ty? Let me ask you first. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, that's a sticky one because there's a whole bunch of things that you can start with. You can talk about the fact that have Man City and Pep are in a very concerning situation. So that's, I guess, you can probably talk about that because they're the reigning champions at the moment, and Liverpool have some advantage at the moment.
Yeah, but I think there's you can smell that there's trouble in that Man City camp. That's just my opinion though. You know, I think that there's a big problem in Man City camp, to be honest. I think that they make some mistake, and I think they're living right now to regret them. You know that that ego. You know, sometimes ego is a thing that can sink you, and I think that that the ego of the Man City, you know, board and management staff and all of that, I think now they're living to regret it. Like selling some of these young talented players that right now that we are seeing in the Premier League. You know, look at Delap from Ipswich Town, Man City. You know, you look at Lavia right now at Chelsea. You look at Cole Palmer. You know, and even Rogers at uh, Aston Villa. So you can see that they got rid of a lot of talent, you know, and right now the talent is showing, you know, that they will have need of these players this season. You know, before we even dwell into it, I know that Chelsea have make a lot of mistake too with a lot of young talent. You know, because if you look at um Livramento, and right now it seems like Reece James, you know, a lot of people been saying his career, you know, is probably over because of the injuries that he been picked up. So I like if a Livramento would do well, you know, if we did hold on to him. So there's a lot of these big teams make a lot of mistakes with a lot of these young players that they get rid of. and now these young players are blossoming. They're shining. They're on top. What you take on it?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. You know, there was a situation with James, for example. It's one that I myself, I've started to believe that maybe his future at Chelsea may have to come to an end sooner rather than later, in terms of the fact that the league probably doesn't help in terms of his injury issues, and probably needs to go to a league where it won't affect him as much, where the climate, the temperature is completely different, and it's easier to for him to to fit in, or to adjust to that climate. Because I don't think that in this current league he's gonna continuously be able to remain fit. Because if you think about it, he hasn't been his natural self, where he's going up the pitch and being able to create, because he's been reserved as a somewhat of an additional centre back rather than a fullback. So that is the biggest concern with James, for example. But to really reflect on, for example, like as you said, with Manchester City and the whole ego and not rectifying the issue, it's obvious. I mean, some players left. There's some players who are getting older. They're past their prime. They're getting to a point where it's difficult for you to continuously perform the exact same way every season for so long, and that's the case. Eventually, players are going to have an off season, and we've seen that they're going to have a season where they're going to be off their game. They're not going to be performing at the level that they would be in the past, and that is what you're seeing, as you said. Certain players, for example, like Roger being out for them. The midfield has a whole bunch of unbalance there. It's not balanced. You don't have that level of balance in terms of protection of the defense, and also being able to connect the defense and the midfield, and then making it towards to the attack. So that is the biggest issue with there. But yeah, as you made mention of the whole situation in terms of the league, I said this in the past. It's a case where this season is one that will be filled with a lot of surprises. We've seen it already, and it promises to be even more surprising and more shocking. And it's about placing on your seatbelt, and just sitting back and just enjoying it, because it promises to be intense and promising.
Yeah, and we can see that happening right in front of our eyes. I want to say I want to bring this up again before we go into the results and the games, and what they do for the table this week. And I want to touch on a little bit on a few players before we dive deep into the conversation about the results, and if Arsenal or is back, or if it's over for really for Man City. We want to touch on Mo Salah. Um, right now, should Mo Salah go down into the conversation as one of the greatest player in the Premier League history? Not saying is the greatest, because they a lot of people saying that that big up Mary. A lot of people been saying that Thierry Henry was, but right now, for what you see with Mo Salah, do you think that Mo Salah have that conversation right now, especially if you go on to win the Premier League this season with Liverpool? Would you put him above Thierry Henry as the GOAT of the Premier League?
Yeah, I think that is a fair argument, and it's a good one as well. And I do agree, because I think he scored around 165 goals in 274 appearances in the Premier League. That is actually impressive. He's getting closer to becoming one of the top three goal scorers as well, because as you just said about Henry, he's what, 13 goals ahead of Salah in that juncture. And all of that. So in terms of taking into account all of that, being a Premier League champion, and could potentially be another one this season if Liverpool can continue to perform the way that they're performing and remain top of the table, definitely he deserves to be a part of that conversation as being one of the best players and attackers in the Premier League or in the history of the Premier League as well.
Yeah, for me, hi Miss Rosie. How you doing today, Miss Rosie? Yeah, for me, I think that the conversation needs to be had. A lot of Arsenal fans, sit uncomfortable with the conversation, but different from the unbeaten season, where Arsenal went on. Thierry Henry done a lot of good things in the Premier League. But I think that right now, Mo Salah, I think that you can put him up there in the conversation because of what he brings, to the Premier League for the last and consistent for the last 7 season or 8 season since he's there in the Premier League, maybe more. But he's a player that failed at Chelsea, went on to Roma, but he never give up. He go there and he prove himself and he work himself and he come back into the Premier League and he take it over since then. The only player was outperforming him was Eden Hazard at the time, and since Eden Hazard leave, he just never looked back. He just continued to go do what he was doing. And even when Eden Hazard was there as the best player in the Premier League, Mo Salah was still pulling up numbers. So to show you that I can never sit here and say that I can see that he got a bad season, because he still contribute goals, either assists or on the end of it himself. So I can sit here and say that I think that now the conversation need to be had. A lot of people are on unease with it, especially the rival fans, But to be honest, he played for Liverpool, one of our rival. But as a Chelsea man, I can sit here and I can tell you that I think that Mo Salah right now is one, of the best player in the Premier League, and right now is one of the best players on form right now in the world, alongside Harry Kane and Lewandowski and Rafinha. Big up, Sir Bobby. Thank you for joining, Sir Bobby. It's an honor.
Yeah, big up to Bobby, and obviously I told Miss Rosie and everyone else who's here. Big up to you, and all of that. So big up. Uh wow, Bobby looks very happy today. That's kind of surprising.
Yeah, Sir Bobby is happy today because his team is on a roll, and we want to talk a little bit about Leicester manager. I know it's a top eight show and Leicester is not in the top eight, but what do you think about the sacking of the Leicester manager today?
Man, I was shocked. I was shocked that that was the case, and it's not really common to see that after a Chelsea defeat, managers get sacked. So it, it's it's actually surprising. I think in recent history, I can remember that happening 3 times, and or probably I'm too young to remember other times, but at best I don't think it's something that happens regularly. But Steve Cooper, I think I respect him as a manager. However, I think he suffered a situation that if Maresca had remained at Leicester City, he would have had as well. They've not been able to invest in the squad and in the team as much as they need to. And it's easy for people to say that, um, that Leicester City are a team that would have won this and whatever, and looking at the ownership and everything in terms of what they've achieved in recent time. But I think that he came into a club where his philosophy and everything could have worked if they had better players, but they've had the issues of injuries. They've had issues in terms of losing quality players, not getting in players who can actually deliver for them. Jamie Vardy is a player that is very, very, I don't want to say old, but he's a senior player. So in that sense, you have to take that into account. So I think Steve Cooper is a good manager. I think he has some way to go in terms of becoming a great manager, but you cannot discredit what he would have done. I think it's at Nottingham Forest before and all of that. So I think it's unfortunate, but at the same time, I can understand the reasoning because Leicester City are what 17th, I believe. They're around 2 or 3 points, or even 1 point. I don't remember how the table looks. Um, Outside of the relegation zone. So obviously they don't want to have a yo-yo effect where they come up and then they go back down. That's not what they want. So I understand the reasoning. It just depends on who they get in, because I'm not sure which manager or any committed manager will go there with the situation that they're in, because the squad is very bloated, it's deflated, it's a team that is a shadow of its old self. Um, so it's gonna definitely take a lot of investments. It's unfortunate. I never like to see anybody lose their job, and this is a situation where he was in a situation that he simply could not do better in with the squad that was made available to him. So it's life, it's reality. But I understand why they made the decision to sack him when the season can perhaps be saved, and they can perform better going forward.
The rumors are David Moyes. Yes, sir, Bobby. They sack him. They sack him a little bit before the Manchester United game. It was like about 10 minutes before the game they sack him. But David Moyes is one of the names that being going around. Even on the broadcast they were talking about. They think that David Moyes was the one that have a little bit of conversation, with the Leicester owners. So I think that David Moyes is one of the favorites so far. What do you think that David Moyes would bring to this Leicester team? Because of you did do you think that this Leicester team have the defensive capability, to suit a David Moyes?
Um, ooh, I don't think so. I think I mean the statistics shows it already. They try to move the ball, quickly from their defense to the attack, and their defense has been shaky. I mean, judging on the way that we were able to really get at them, how quickly we were able to move through their defense, their midfield, and progress the ball into the final third. I don't think that his classic tactics will be able to work at Leicester City. What he did at West Ham, he struggled quite a lot, but he brought them up a couple of times. He did a lot of good things for them. So I think if he is the favorite and if he ends up getting the job, it's gonna be a case where he's gonna probably have to alter. And the word is evading me right now of of what to really say. But I think he may have to adjust, alter, and modernize. That's the word. Modernize his tactics and find a way to adapt it to the way that the players play, the quality of these players, because playing a 4-2-3-1 slash 4-4-2 formation can work, because that was the structure that they've used for years. But the squad is bloated. It's not the same as it was in the past. So investments are needed, but if he gets the job, it won't be easy with his current tactical approach, because they don't have the defense to do it, they don't have the midfield to do it, and the attack is inconsistent. So I'm not sure if he'll be much of a success as this season, but we'll have to wait and see. Manager bounce exists, so if that happens, then obviously they can probably finish in the probably around the 13, or probably come close to the top 10 spot.
Yeah, we're gonna go into the games. You know, Amarin, his first game against Ipswich. Oh, Sir Bobby is here. Before we move on, let me hear Sir Bobby take on it. Welcome, welcome, Sir Bobby.
Legend.
Hey, big up, guys! Big up, guys! I just saw you on YouTube, and I thought, let me check if I've got a link. So thanks for the link.
You're
It's
welcome,
all
sir.
good. What are we talking about now?
Oh, we were talking about the conversation, about Mo Salah.
Okay.
Do you think that Mo Salah should be you know, being named, with the goats of the Premier League, like your Thierry Henry? Because a lot of people been saying Thierry Henry is the best player ever in the Premier League. I'm just saying, would you say that Mo Salah is right up there with his performance season in, season out.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mo Salah is an excellent striker. I don't think he's as good as Henri, but he's certainly, he's certainly up there in terms of strikers that have lit up the Premier League, for sure. He has to be given his respect for that.
Yeah, and I know you didn't know about the sacking of Steve Cooper.
Yeah, that surprised me. That
What do you
surprised
think?
me. I mean, they're not in the bottom three. Um, I thought it was odd, to be honest. Yeah, they didn't. They were kind of outsmarted by Mares- Maresca early in the first half, but I don't think they did that badly. I don't think it warranted him being sacked. That was a strange one for me. But that's what happens. People, maybe they've looked at the finances and they've seen that they can't afford not to be in the Premier League. I don't know. It's a strange one. Maybe they've got somebody else in mind. Um, it's a strange one. It really is. And I don't particularly care. It's not Chelsea, but it's news. It's newsworthy. Um, yeah. What can I say? I just don't think it's a weird one.
That's funny, man. That's funny. Bobby doesn't mince his words. He just said he just simply said, I don't care. If it's not Chelsea, I don't care. Uh,
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I'm not disturbed by it. No, I really, I couldn't give a backside. It's just interesting, and it seems odd. Seems very odd. Had that been a Chelsea manager, uh, obviously it would have made far more headlines. But for Chelsea to be in that position makes headlines in itself. So, um, yeah, yeah. Okay, I see why you're talking about Mo Salah. I didn't watch a Liverpool game, but I think he kind of, made sure they won that game. He has done a lot for that club in particular. So, yeah, he's up there. He's up there. But is he as good as Henri? In my opinion, no. I think Henri was a slightly better class of player.
That's fair enough. We want to talk about this game, Ty and Sir Bobby, the Manchester City game. You know,
Mm.
um, Me and Ty was talking about it earlier, so I just want to hear your take on it. Do you think that Man City reached a stage where they start to regret all these young, talented young players that they let go of? And
Mm.
do you think that their team really need a rebuild? We can see that they're struggling from the last couple of seasons. It's just Arsenal didn't have the cojones to take them down. But do you think that this is the season that someone really take them down?
It's possible. Football is cyclical. The days of the financial um, injection based on big money ownership has really gone. Now because of all the regulation, you really are meriting your financial muscle. Now they've had four consecutive Premier League titles. That comes with Champions League appearances. So there is some revenue generated by the club going into that club. But, football is cyclical. They don't have, yeah, they have an aging team, but there's also a lot of young players. Is it, oh gosh, I've forgotten his name. Doku, Haaland himself. They do, and then they've got that new kid in midfield, Silvino or something. They have smatterings of young players there. The one that came through the academy. Look, there's no point in talking about players that you've sold. Every top team, sells players. Chelsea sold De Bruyne, Chelsea sold Salah, and the rest is history. I mean, it happens. So I wouldn't, if I were them, start pulling up that chestnut. They'll just frustrate themselves and tie themselves in knots. They've won back-to-back Premier Leagues. To expect to win a fifth in a row is a bit of an indictment to the Premier League. Really, there has to be somebody capable of challenging them. And I am so Chelsea. I rarely talk about other clubs, but I can't stand Arsenal. And if I have to drink a poison of who I would rather see win the league, it would have to be Liverpool. And believe me, I can't stand Liverpool either. But it's just that my hatred for Arsenal is more. Man City have come to a point. Rodri has been injured, and they rely a lot on him to connect the play. He chips in a few goals. I mean, Rodri is a monster. Rodri is to Man City what Kante was to every team he's been in. Kante is a difference maker. Kante made Leicester City win the Premier League. That league they won was because of N'Golo Kante. Nobody knew him at the time. He was new, and he was absolutely brilliant. That's why Chelsea went and took him. And look what he did for Chelsea at Chelsea. Remarkable stuff. Rodri is of that ilk. Now, why I have no empathy for Man City is that when Chelsea were going through their injury crisis, everybody was just on their case. Oh, get on with it. Oh, everybody has injuries and all that sort of thing. Well, same to Man City. Get on with it. Everybody has injuries. It is what it is. But definitely he is being missed by them, and they do rely on him to be where they are. Will they maintain the momentum? Every club has to have a dip. Even clubs like Bayern Munich and Real Madrid, who are in singular leagues where they win every time and they don't have any kind of opposition, really. They have their dips. Bayern Munich didn't win the league last season. I think last 2 seasons in Germany, if I'm correct. Certainly last season they didn't win. But Real Madrid, I don't think Real Madrid won. Didn't Barcelona win the La Liga last season? So, there will be dips. Man City are definitely having a bit of a wobble. Now, having said that, are they capable of putting a 10 match run together? Yes, they are. Remember, they've got Pep Guardiola. He is an excellent manager. But uh, okay, Steve Cooper. I'd like to hear what he said later. But yeah, they are very capable of suddenly pulling the hat out of the bag and going on a remarkable run. But it's going to be interesting. Can they win the league? I think they still can, to be honest. Um, they're having their little dip period, and they will have to reorganize themselves and find a different way of playing. It's a difficult time in the season to do that because we're coming into December. You know how the December period is. It's going to be a little bit tougher for them. Now, Liverpool are flying. But I believe Liverpool themselves are going to have a little dip period. They're flying because they don't have any injuries. You see, injuries do a lot to teams. Look at Arsenal. They've sort of faltered because of injuries. So I revert back to the Chelsea case. I have no um, respect, for want of a better word, for the way we were attacked last season with a new team, a young team, and a plethora of injuries. And everybody attacked the club, the owners, and it was appalling. Now look at these other clubs, how easily they falter with one or two injuries. We had so many key injuries. So let's see, let's see. Is it the end for Man City? I don't think so. I think they've just had a blip. It happens in football. You can't have smooth sailing all the time, especially in a league like the Premier League. Can they bounce back? Possibly, but it's going to be very difficult for them this season unless they find that their resurgence occurs at a time where other teams start to get injuries, like Liverpool and so on. Two or three injuries to Liverpool, and they will drop points for sure. An injury to Mo Salah, injury to Van Dijk. Um, um, Chelsea are always complaining about why they bring Nkunku off the bench. Well, Liverpool bring oh gosh, what's his name? Oh gosh, their striker. Damn, Portuguese striker.
Jota,
Help. Sorry,
Jota.
Jota, who I rate very highly. He comes off the bench. Nobody talks about that. But injury to him. Injuries left, right, and center to key players, and you will suffer. You will start to, slip up. So we'll wait and see how that pans out with Man City. But are they the Man City of last season and the season before? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think they'll struggle, particularly without Rodri. But are they capable of still turning it around and shaming everybody and winning the league again for a fifth time in a row? I think they are. I think they are, but I don't think it'll be good for the league.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just want to add this. The point that Bobby made about the fact with the injuries that Man City have gotten, and then the fact of there was no sympathy for Chelsea. The thing is, I find it so strange, and then it makes me realize that one of the things that have caught up with City is the fact that they never had they didn't have any. I don't want to use the word backup, but they don't have a players who can deputize for players who are important. And to just think about the fact that last season we had around 19 injuries. We had a complete 11 injured last season. We have more of an excuse as to why we were not performing consistently. City have players who have quality. As Bobby said, they have players who are still young. Doku is still a young player. Haaland is obviously still a young player. Foden is somewhat older now, but he's still young. They have KDB who's experienced. You have Bernardo Silva, Gundogan who came back and all those things. I'm not sure if he's fit. I don't really keep up with Man City's squad. But to just think about the fact that they've had injuries to players like Diaz and all of that, it really shows the fact that they were highly reliant on these players. And if they are not available, they cannot perform at the same level. Bobby made a good point about the fact that it could be a blip, because if you take into account the fact that of the history of City when they win the league, they never start the season off all guns blazing or flying or in good form. They always take a couple of matches, and perhaps in December or late November, usually they would start to pick up. But ideally, December is when they have an upturn in results. So I think that's the next problem with them as well. They don't have players who can deputize, whether it's because they've relied on the experience, and these players have always been fitter and available. And then obviously, the older you get, the more your body becomes susceptible to more injuries. They didn't plan for that. So yes, they made signings and all that, but in terms of investing in players who can actually deputize if these players need a rest or if they get injured, they weren't ready for that. And we're seeing that, after so long of winning the league back to back and winning it so many times in the era of Pep, the time has come for them to actually look and evaluate their squad and realize that okay, this squad has done so much things. They've won a lot of things. You cannot ask for anything more, but they're not the same anymore. It doesn't mean they can't win a league because they still have the capabilities, the experience to do it, and they have the manager who has the experience to do it. But it's not going to be easy. And I've always said this: if teams such as Arsenal last season, which I share the sentiment of Bobby, were able to perform at a level where to go the full mile and not to falter along the way, they could have, the word's not coming to me, they could have dethroned um City from winning the league again because they were there for the taking. It was there. It's about teams taking the advantage and recognizing that City have a slow start. So if they can have better performances game after game in the Premier League, they can dethrone City. However, we know that football isn't perfect. Nobody's perfect, so teams are going to always have their faltering moments as well. But it's about dominating or taking advantage of your opponents or the teams you're contending with for the title to falter and you pouncing on that. And Liverpool have been able to do that. They've been lucky with a lot of games, but you need luck to win the league. So at the same time, I can't discredit them, but they're gonna have issues as well. So Thompson proved that they have weaknesses. Even we showed that they have weaknesses, but obviously we weren't able to do what needed to be done. I don't want this to turn into a Chelsea show because it's top eight. So forgive me for that, but it's still top eight talking about City.
No, you're good. Because I'm leaving the Chelsea part for last because I have a question I want to ask you and Sir Bobby. To be honest, but my take on the Man City thing, though, I think that Pep Guardiola have burned out like Klopp. I don't think that he still got the fire. I think that he was gonna leave the end of the season. I think that manager change to Manchester United. I think that's what kind of urged for him to really sign that new contract. I think that Man City was already trying to get Amarin, to take over from Pep Guardiola, but because he ended up choose Manchester United, I think that's what kind of let him sign that 1 year contract so they can find a replacement. But I don't think he's gonna do the next year because it's 1 year plus one, right? But I don't think he's gonna go to the next one. I think that the person that they really want to take over, already gone. So I think that's what kind of bring back Pep Guardiola. But you can see definitely that Pep Guardiola is not the same this season like last season. If you listen to his press conference, you can see that it's someone that's burned out, is tired, probably need a new challenge. I don't know if you guys want to add
Um,
something that before we move on.
yeah, I want to add something to that because I think I think you're right, but I think why a lot of these clubs are going for the new younger managers, because the new younger managers are moldable, they are changeable. The older managers, and it's strange calling Pep Guardiola the older manager because he's had so much success. It's going to be very difficult for him to change the way he coaches. And we saw with like Mourinho and some of the other greats, these things have a bit of a shelf life. And after a while, you get sort of found out, and then you can't change. And it's not so much that you're found out tactically, it's that you are found out by the change in regulation, the change in the competition. Now, a lot of these managers burn out their players. They're not used to this new situation where you have players, they play. The Premier League is a hell for leather league as it is. All these Nations Cup competitions, then you have the European competitions, then you have the domestic cup competitions, then you have the World Cup qualifiers, then you have the European Nations Cup qualifiers. It's too much football for the same set of players. They are playing too much. That's why they get injured. Chelsea, at the moment have concerns. You know, we sent Lavia to Belgium. He had to come back. He wasn't fit. He can't even play 90 minutes for Chelsea yet. Fofana, the same thing, having to manage his minutes. Even Cole Palmer carrying an injury. I'm disgusted with what Roy Keane, Harry Kane said about the injured players. You know, these guys are playing too much football. It's become a health and safety issue. But the greed for money and the almost bloodlust for constantly playing these good players for your entertainment is becoming it's becoming brutal. It's becoming almost a form of slavery. Yes, they're being paid exceptionally well, but do you have to kill them? Do you have to maim them? Many of these guys can't play football. Look at Reece James. What's happening with him with his recurrent injury? Too much football. The difference we've seen with N'Golo Kante when he went to Saudi Arabia and has added a few extra years, a bit of longevity to his career. Why? Because he's left the Premier League that was murdering him. People like Tuchel, Conte, they flogged him to death. He would and his international manager, Deschamps. You know, it's merciless. Deschamps will play him in games that was just unnecessary, useless, pointless friendlies. Then he'll come to England, back to England. He'll play every single competition because they need him so much. Tuchel didn't even let him recover properly from injuries before he took him out to play again. He played for us in the Champions League final with injections. You know, we're grateful that he was there because I think he was one of the reasons we won. But it's too much. It's too much. That's why they've lost Rodri. Rodri didn't miss a game. Eventually, he had to get injured. So I think, you know, Man City have that situation to review, and that's where Guardiola, you know, will come unstuck because he plays with a somewhat smaller selection. He may have a squad of 25 players, but you'll find that Guardiola selects from about 16 and recycles those over and over and over again. And it's not good. We've had KDB breaking down with injuries. Um, you know, I just think the amount of football that is scheduled for these players is too much. Now, the answer could be, oh, they've all got money. Let them get bigger squads. Okay, Chelsea tried that, and you're all on their case. Sorry to always come back to Chelsea, but you know that's my default. You know, you're all on their case. Oh, they've got this player, they've got that player. You need to be able to rotate your players to be able to survive this madness. Because what's going on now, especially in English football, is absolute madness. And the top 8 clubs are the most affected by it because their players play the most football.
Yeah, that's true because you know the games, you know the game is not like back in the days. It's more, you know, the players don't even get 2 weeks properly vacation. You know, soon as they went off, you still have international tournaments like the FIFA Club World Cup is coming up. So how much rest these players get? You know, not a lot. We want to move on to Aston Villa so we can go to Chelsea, you know, because that's where we're gonna spend most of the time. What you guys think about Aston Villa? You know, do you think that the Champions League is their main priority? Why they start to struggle a little bit in the league?
Can I go with this because it sort of leads on from what I was saying? Because it's my case in point or my point in case, as you know, however you want to put it. I mean, clubs like Villa that are not particularly used to playing in the Champions League, they suffer a lot because the competition. A competition like the Champions League, you have to play your best players because it's that fierce. And then these best players have to also play in the Premier League. And then these best players are usually called up for international duty, so they play that as well. They get burnt out, they get injured, they get fatigued, and I think this is what is affecting Aston Villa because they do have a very good squad. But the squad, you can see sometimes they're leggy. Sometimes they nurse a few injuries here and there. It is the demand on them that has increased that I think has slightly affected them.
Anything you want to add to that, Ty?
Sorry, sorry, my connection is a bit poor. Which club is it about particularly?
Aston Villa.
Oh well, yeah. In that case, then yeah, it's about Aston Villa have, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, have rich history in the Champions League or in Europe. So I mean, being back in that competition, they're obviously gonna want to ensure that they're amongst the best in terms of finishing or being in the knockout stages as far as possible. And I believe that that's the case because the situation is somewhat similar to Cities. They don't have a squad where they can rotate or they can manage to not play their best players in the Champions League and then also have them back in the Premier League. It's impossible. And because of that, you're gonna struggle in one competition. And I believe that the case is you get more funds in terms of proceeding further in the competition than in the Premier League. Obviously, I'm sure Villa are not trying to aim to win the Premier League this season or anything like that. I believe that they would say, okay, let's see what we can do in the Champions League, see if we can get as far as possible for the monetary reasons. I don't know if they think they'll be able to win it, but I think that is actually the case. They don't have the squad either. They don't have the depth, and as I said, it's similar to the situation with City. Looking back at what those teams would do, they would play youthful players in other competitions to try to rest the other players. But in the case for Villa, they don't have that luxury. They don't have the quality. They don't have that consistency as well to say that okay, we can play these players here and we know that the quality won't drop. They won't be 90% will get 100%. So I think that's the case. I think that's the case.
Yeah, both. I like what you guys said. Because for me, I think the same way. To be quite honest, I think that Villa, they do have a good 11 to 12 or probably 13 players, in their squad where you can call upon at any moment, as Sir Bobby said earlier. But I don't think they got the depth, like what probably like a Chelsea have, or and even a little bit of Arsenal. I think Arsenal probably have probably a few more players in depth over them, but I think that Aston Villa will take the Champions League, more, because the more you go in the Champions League is the more money you gain. So I think they're gonna pick their battle, and I think they'll probably fall off a little bit, in the until they probably drop out of the Champions League. Then you probably see they try to go back for a run. But we're moving on to Arsenal, because we want to go to the Chelsea part, because I can't wait to hear Sir Bobby take on it, and especially you, Ty. But Arsenal, do you think that Arsenal is back, or is just a one off show? Because all season long they haven't been playing, I would say good in any terms. A lot of people have them as the favorite to win the league this season, but every time that they you think that they're gonna get closer, they find some way to fall off, which is good for me as a Chelsea fan. I know it's good for you too, Sir Bobby and Ty, because I can never want to see Arsenal win a title. To be quite honest, I would rather Liverpool win it, or even Manchester City, even though I don't want them to win five in a row. But I would never want to see Arsenal win, and that's just my take on it. But I just want to hear your guys' take on it.
Me or Ty?
Oh, you can go ahead, Sir Bobby.
Um, Arsenal. It's an interesting one. There are a couple of players they have overplayed and they've got injured. Odegaard is back though, and Saka. Well, I think he's back. I didn't really pay much attention to their 3-0 win over Nottingham Forest, but they must have had players back to be able to do that. They do have squad depth. I think you're right. You know, people underestimate the level of depth Arsenal have, which makes me laugh because, you know, as I've always pointed out against Chelsea, they had Marino on the bench, they have Jorginho on the bench, they had Zinchenko on the bench, two of which didn't play. Marino comes on for Declan Rice. They've got Thomas Partey, so they have an abundance of riches for their midfield, not to mention the defense and attack. You know, Saka comes off and Jesus comes on. You know, they have squad depth. I personally think, and I don't really, you know, it's just my opinion. I think what Arsenal are struggling with a bit this season, they are still a formidable team, but they're trying to leave the way they play to emphasize a bit more on physicality because they have the physical players, you know, your Partey's, your Declan Rice, your Gabriels, your what's the other guy that their other centre back, um uh
Saliba.
Saliba. You know, they have all these very physical players, even in attack. So they're trying to emphasize their physicality. They're trying to switch up from the slick passing to a little bit of bullying on the field. I don't think it's working for them, to be honest. I think they should just stick to how they've been playing all along. I understand that Arteta wants to be unpredictable a little bit. You know, this is the Premier League. People study you and they get to know you. I get it, but that transition to playing differently, I think, is not helping and is giving them a few hiccups along the way. But they're still a dangerous outfit, and they will still, you know, take some beating. They're very good defensively, and you know that's their foundation. They're trying to go back to the old George Graham way, where although football rules were different then, but they would defend and defend and defend with your Tony Adams and people like that, Martin Keown, the big guys at the back, and try and hit you a bit on the break. I think they're trying to reinstate that into the way they play. How successful that will be, I don't know, because against the better teams that have very mobile forwards, they can be opened up, as Chelsea proved at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah. Taking that into account and based on what Bobby just said, it pains me to say this, but I wouldn't say they're back because I mean one game doesn't say our team is back. They're back to winning ways. You can say that, but I mean I don't think I can see. I wouldn't say that in terms of because I think the sample size is very small, and you know it's also down to the fact that Nottingham Forest, despite not creating as much chances as Arsenal did, they did not take their chances as well. I don't want to sound like those pundits that will discredit the team that won and say, oh, the other team was bad. But in this context, I mean, basing it off what Bobby just said, if you face off against teams that will hurt you when they get their chances, even if it's minimal amounts, you're gonna have a difficult time. And Forest have had an issue where you know they were doing good. They were able to get some wins and grind out some good results and all that. But over time, when you don't have a squad that is filled with consistency or with depth or having the capabilities to perform on on a weekly basis the same way, you're gonna have problems. And I think that that's the case with them in particular. So I wouldn't say that they're back based on it just being one match, because it depends on who they play next and all that. I'm not really sure who they play next. That then you'd probably say that okay, maybe something is developing in terms of getting back into form. But it wasn't straightforward for them. You know, they um Nottingham Forest did lose confidence eventually, but it was a case where Nottingham Forest had chances and they wasted them, and then Arsenal posed. But you know, not to discredit them, um, Arsenal have a good squad in terms of depth, as Bobby said. They have the capabilities to hurt you because they can move the ball quickly. They have the players. Odegaard being back helps them to do that because he was very key in them winning this match against Forest. So I can't discredit that. But it shows once more that when you're over reliant on a particular player to be your playmaker, the creator, the what's the term? Your ride or die on all those stuff, you're gonna have an issue where if they're not having a good game, you're gonna struggle, and that's not something that you want to see. So I can't say that they're back, but I would say that it's good for them in the sense of they've been able to to get a win when it matters, and to keep the conversation of them being in the title race alive because they're 1 point behind City, and they're 9 points behind Liverpool, and the season is still young, somewhat. So I mean, it's still open. It's not the end, and I don't think Liverpool have walked away with the league as some people have made it look.
Yeah, their next game they away to West Ham United, and I think last season they struggled at West Ham away. If I'm correct, but it's a different manager there at West Ham, so we don't know what the West Ham haven't been good at this season at all. Anyway, but the manager, they said he got two games to save his job. So if you don't beat Newcastle, I think tomorrow and lose to Arsenal, then I think that will be the end of the road for him. So let us see how that one go. But I'm not going to touch on Tottenham today, to be quite honest, because Tottenham is always Tottenham, not consistent. We all know what Tottenham gonna do, or unless Sir Bobby or Ty want to touch it. But if not, we can skip it because I don't think there's much to really say about Tottenham because they beat Man City this weekend and they can lose their next game or the next two or three games. So that's what Tottenham normally do, in my opinion. It's no disrespect to Tottenham, but Tottenham always be Tottenham.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can disrespect them, Gavin. That's what they're there for. Um, look, in football, you're only as good as your next game. And I have to say that Tottenham have an outfit. They really do have a strong squad. Um, will it be different this year? It could be. It could be. I don't disparage a team that has those sort of players in their mix easily. They're very physical. I don't know what happened with City. I have to watch the highlights of that game if I can sit through it. But I don't. I think City was a mixture of not being on form, no Rodri, post international blues, as it were. So I don't think they met a very potent Man City. Certainly not to beat them 4-0 at home. But I wouldn't underestimate Tottenham at all. I think they are always a threat, and they should always be taken seriously. And they've shown what happens when you don't take them seriously.
It's kind of it's somewhat difficult to go after Bobby. As I mean, he says a lot, and it makes it difficult to really to follow up because I mean it's factual. It's crazy though. I mean, but that is the way. I think I remember who said it, but it's the way of Tottenham. Um, they'll look like the best thing since sliced bread against one opponent, and then the next they're losing against teams you'd expect them to win against. They do have a good squad as well. What's his name? Solanke. He's done some good for them. I mean, Brennan Johnson, I think his name is. He's had somewhat of a better season than the one he had prior. And they have players who can actually hurt teams. They can hit you on the counter. They have players who have good pace as well. So it's all good in that sense. But I mean, I don't know, to take the whole rival fan bias out of it. I do think that you can't really say much about them because it's similar to Arsenal. You know, anything can happen. They can have an off game and we're back to square one. We're either laughing at Tottenham or we're like, oh, it's just Tottenham. It's classic.
Yeah, 100. Go ahead, sir, Bobby. Go ahead, sir, Bobby. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, I was going to just add a brief thing about West Ham and Arsenal. Arsenal, if we can take the result against Forest as some sort of resurgence of form, I think West Ham will be in big problems. As you've said, West Ham aren't playing that well this season, and they'll be there for the taking for Arsenal. That's how I see it at the moment. Because if Arsenal's on form, I can't see West Ham really being able to withstand that.
Yeah, for me, it's a tough one. This Premier League, I think it's got a lot of twists and turn to go before the end of the season, especially in the
Oh,
December
absolutely.
period.
I really agree. I think, look at the point difference. It's so tight. I don't know if it was like this last season
Nope.
because we were just busy in the mid table as Chelsea fans. So we weren't really caring too much about, well, I wasn't, what was going on at the top. Um, but I can't remember, the top four, especially, I mean, from second place to about eighth place, as you've said, there's nothing. There's nothing between the teams. Anybody slipping up, it's going to be bad for them because they're going to. You can very easily get to second place because the points margin, I mean, is nothing. So it's going to be quite interesting, and there will be twists and turns. Even with Liverpool, a couple of injuries to them, and it could be totally different. Trouble is with them, they've already amassed the points to maybe absorb a couple of losses.
And even then, it's still twisted because today you have to say, Mr. Luck was on their side. So this Premier League gonna be a roller coaster. A lot of people gonna have to fasten their seatbelts so they don't fall out because it's gonna be a bumpy ride this season. As Sir Bobby said, if you look from eight, that's why I named the show. I was talking to Ty earlier, and that's why I name it the top eight show where because I'm saying we used to say the big six, but there's no big six anymore. It's moving marginally to the top to big eight now. Because if you're gonna put Newcastle and Aston Villa, up there, and even Brighton, Nottingham Forest, these teams are trying to make a mark, are trying to put themselves in the conversation. So we definitely always have to be on our A game, always be a one step or two step ahead, and that's what the Premier League is calling for right now. So these big six, the Chelsea, the Manchester City, Arsenal, these teams gonna always have to continue, to be one or two steps ahead if they want to stay in the top four, because these teams are not looking nowhere close to fall off, especially Brighton. Brighton seems like they just on a roll. They just continue, to push. And big up Rich Money Maker. Good to see you. Go ahead, Ty.
Oh, I just muted myself accent. Right. So I'm saying that I'm going to take some credit for this. You said about the top eight. Yeah, I remember seeing, especially when Newcastle had that whole takeover. I made a bold statement, and I was the laughing stock when I said it. I said that don't be surprised if you have teams like Newcastle, other teams that may have potential takeovers, or the owners may start investing in the team and all that, or the club in full. If you see that some of the teams that you classify as the big six or the top six teams, or the teams that are the customary top six teams, all of that changes because you know football has become a business. It's become a situation where every owner realizes that if they can attain certain achievements, they can they can help the club to develop from a financial standpoint. We talk about Villa being in the Champions League. Obviously, they receive prize money for qualifying for that, and then if they make it to the knockout stages, they receive some more funds as well. So that benefits them. So you cannot be surprised if some teams that you'd expect to be in the top four, they slip up, and that's what we saw. Being in the top four, finishing the top four. Other teams finishing below the top 10, such as Chelsea, for example. It's about teams being able to continue to see the importance of developing depth, developing more acquisitions coming in that can benefit the team. And I think that if teams don't see that, and we talked about ego and having that belief that, oh, we don't need to do much because we've already done this, that is going to go out the window. That's going to become irrelevant because football is changing, it's evolving, it's not the same anymore.
Yeah, you guys are 100% correct. And thank you again, Rich Moneymaker. Continue with your recovery. Hope is coming on good because we all miss you. We know that once we don't see you in the comment section, that it's we always wonder, how you're doing or if you're good. So I want to say thank you for tuning in. So let we know that you're good and well. And we're gonna move on to Chelsea, our beloved Chelsea. This is a conversation that I think that we need to have, about Chelsea. First, we're gonna start off with Cole Palmer. Do you guys think that Cole Palmer are started being targeted now? Do you think that opponent team are directly, targeting the hamstring and the heel and the ankle of Cole Palmer intentionally? Because this since this season, I saw two tackle on Cole Palmer that should be in red, and none of the other turned out to be red. More than just a yellow. So, do you guys think that it's an issue that the referee or Chelsea Football Club need to put out there so the referees start to take more look into these players that put in these tackle on Cole Palmer? Anyone can start. I don't know who want to take it on first.
Yeah, let Ty go first this time.
Fine,
So
so that's funny. All right, right. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, in this sense, I wouldn't say I've been guilty of being clipped for saying certain stuff, so I'm gonna be careful with what I say. Cole Palmer is suffering from what we can say is the treatment that Eden Hazard would have got. Let me not generalize it and simply say that it's Eden Hazard. But when a team has one player that other teams may see that, okay, this past season this was their main man. He was the one that was making things happen for the team. You're going to have that issue where they're going to be targeting him. So yes, he definitely is being targeted because they know that due to the fact that when Cole Palmer is not having a good game, creativity may drop, if Fernandez is not having a good game, nobody else is gonna do much. If you take out the main man, you know that the creativity drops, the productivity will be significantly low. So yes, he's being targeted for that reason. I mean, it's good and it's also bad. It's good at the same time because I mean we saw what happened to Eden Hazard, and we don't want our players to be injured. Nor is it to be a case where he continuously gets taken out or he gets tackled and it dangerously happens and then he gets injured, and as he progresses through his career he becomes more susceptible to more injuries. You don't want that to be the case. But he's not the first person at Chelsea. We did see that happen, for example, with Christian Pulisic for a brief time. He was always being targeted because of what he did during Project Restart, in the latter stages of the 2020, the 2019-20 season. The next season after that, he was being targeted a lot. So definitely thing needs to be addressed. I'm still yet to have an understanding of why the challenge that he received um, wasn't really looked at to see that it should have been a red card, because that's dangerous. I mean, the whole situation against Man United, that was dangerous as well, but they didn't see it as being a red card. Um, I don't know. It's something that we know. I mean, Bobby is an advocate for all of this as well. When it comes onto the fact that Chelsea are not liked, they're a club that are hated, which at times we can be happy about. But you know, the officiating has been inconsistent, not only for Chelsea, but as Chelsea fans, we're able to recognize the fact that this isn't adding up. Whereas a case where mistakes are being made, or I don't even want to say mistakes, decisions are being made that are blatantly clear that they are incorrect and nothing is being done about it. I don't understand like those other club fans that are gonna complain and say, "Oh, referees are fighting against us" and all of that. But the fact of the matter is, it cannot be such of a coincidence that every time something like this happens, nothing is being done about it. So it is concerning, and I definitely think that it's something that should be looked into, because we don't want our players to be injured, nor is it normal for the laws of football to be disregarded when there's rules set in place for the protection and for the protection and safety of the players that play the game. So it's something that definitely needs to be looked in for sure.
You can go ahead, Sir Bobby.
Yeah. Look, good players are always somewhat targeted, but the violence meted out on good players, especially Chelsea players, is, in my view, it's not acceptable. I've seen live what happened to Eden Hazard. It was just butchery, and the referees did nothing. What Ndidi did to Cole Palmer, that's what you call a career-ending injury. That sort of thing was what happened to Ruben Loftus-Cheek, that tore his Achilles in a friendly game. I can't see how that wasn't a straight red card. Even the one at Man United should have been a red card. But you see, when the officials don't do that, they encourage it. When they're showing players that this player has absolutely no protection, the violence towards them is encouraged. He's definitely marked more, but I like what Maresca said. If you're paying attention, marking Cole Palmer, that gives opportunities to other players, and I think it is true. You mark Cole Palmer too much. Chelsea should have other threats. I think Madueke is too wasteful. He's young, yes, he's very immature, and I think very soon that chicken will come home to roost with him, because the attention to Cole Palmer should give people like him more opportunities, and it has been, but he's just not taking them. But Cole will have to learn how to adapt. I think he is to a certain extent, and also understand that the opportunities he'll be able to make will not be as frequent. And I think he's doing that as well. But the sheer violence against him should not be accepted. And this is a Chelsea targeting thing, and I don't see how is it PGMOL, the referees association. I don't see how they don't step in. This is the health and safety of a player that's concerned, and those sort of tackles. Um, in what climate, should we accept this in football? I just find, I was appalled by that decision, both by the referee and by VAR. And of course, the pundits um, were then saying that it wasn't a red card as well, which I just found absolutely disgusting. But is he being targeted more this season? Yes, he is. It happens. It'll have to be part of the evolution of his game.
Oh, sorry about that. I got a call from the kids. They went out to a little birthday party. Yeah, it's not acceptable. Players know what they're doing with Cole Palmer. To be quite honest, I think especially one against Manchester United, I think that one was intentional. And I think that if the referee did something about that one, probably we wouldn't see this one yesterday. From Ndidi, you know, I'm not gonna say the one from Ndidi it's intentional, but but I think that players know what they're doing, because there's no way you can catch the ball, in that direction the way Cole Palmer turned. So he was nowhere close to the ball. So why VAR look at it and say that that is not a red card? That's definitely, it's not only because he stepped on the on Cole Palmer. You can see his follow through with the next foot. Didn't even hit the ball either. So the next one take the next foot of Cole Palmer. So that was a very very dangerous tackle. That should have been a red card in my humble opinion. But let us see what the I was saying to someone when I was watching the game. If it was like like of a Erling Allen or one of these favorite players, I definitely it would have been a red card. They would have taken more details, and do what they got to do. But because it's Cole Palmer, and probably because it's Chelsea also, so they didn't think that they need to go to the necessary and do what they got to do. But hopefully, that the club needs to come out and put a statement out, and I know for a fact that can change it, because they know that the club, what I noticed with the Premier League, and Ty or Sir Bobby can correct me, if the fans or the owners or the club itself don't put certain narrative, you would never get certain decision, in your favor. Look at Wolverhampton. Once they get mistreated, they come out, they speak about it, they let the world know about it. If you notice that it's kind of different, because last season I think it was like twice, a player kicked the ground and end up get the penalty against Wolverhampton, and they call it out. So I think the club need to call out stuff like these, so the referee can know that, listen, the referee association know that, like, we're watching, we're gonna speak up, we're gonna let the world know about it, so you guys need to get your act together. If it was like a Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, and those players, it would definitely be a red card. Why you think those players have been around so long? Because they have been getting protection from the referees when they were there in La Liga. So I think some of these things go a long way, as you say, Sir Bobby. But I think it's up to the board to push this, so they know that listen, he's being cheated unfairly, because some of these tacklers, especially the one yesterday, and the one before that, those could have taken him out for a long period of time.
You see, I'm always direct and to the point. I think that's the intention. I really do. You know, as I said, I witnessed live some of the tackles on Eden Hazard, you know, ankles bleeding and everything. I think that's what affected his career with Real Madrid. You know, he picked up far too many knocks and injuries in England. And the thing is, you know, Hazard was a very tough guy. He was a very strong player. He will play through the pain barrier. You know, legs kicked and bruised and maybe even muscles torn, and he will still keep playing. Um, it's not acceptable. I don't understand our mentality in this country. You know, we're so spiteful when it comes to a team that we don't like, that we'll happily see somebody hurt in order to incapacitate that team. I'm just saying it as it is. It's not acceptable to me. I just find it really weird. I mean, I don't like Arsenal for anything. Would I encourage somebody maiming Odegaard? No, I wouldn't. I mean, I don't know in what planet we accept this. And what really appalls me the most is when you listen to the pundits afterwards, all of them, one of them an ex-Chelsea player. I don't know how much they're paying you to get up there and follow this agenda. It's disgusting. It's disgusting to me. There is no way that was not a red card. And there's no way he didn't intend to hurt him. He went to hurt the player. It's just, to me, it's undoubtable, and it's very sad. It's very sad. You know, fortunately, Cole is okay, but you know, I'm all for telling these players, yes, get used to being targeted. Yes, they will come and clatter you every now and then, but and that's what concerns me about Esteval Williams, because he's a kid and a scrawny, sort of skinny kid. And, you know, if he's anything as good as they say he is, if he comes and starts performing, these people will look to hurt him. I just can't, because they know the referees won't protect him. That gives me concern. So I don't know. I don't know. I can't say it loud enough. I think we as a fan base have to start making the noise. It's not acceptable. It isn't. It's not even safe. These are sportsmen. It's a sport, not you know, not some sort of vicious, aggressive encounter. That's all I have to say about that. I'm very upset with that.
What have you done? What have you done, Garvin?
No, we just have to
You
speak the truth.
boy.
You know, it's just the truth. You know, and we all here sit here, we all upset about it because you can definitely see that he could have break his ankle. You know, that could have been a career injured tackle. Like you can definitely see. You know, and it's not only just the one leg that he stood on. You know, you can see the follow through with the next leg. So you know, we have to speak about it. Sorry, Ty, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the more it's a case where the more we talk about it, the more you get frustrated because you have to like it's playing over in your head and you imagining if it was worse because and that's what makes it even more frustrating because as I said the whole situation with Man United fine you're gonna say that it wasn't intentional fine but this one is definitely you can definitely see that it is because if it's from the back surely it can't be accidental because you're going your momentum is not going to allow you to be moving in that sort of way. So obviously that was the main intent. But the only positive thing is that it didn't injure Palmer and it didn't end his career because that would have been obviously worse and perhaps then he would have been carded. But I'm just hoping that he doesn't suffer, as Bobby said, the same, results, or the end result is not the same, where, because of the amount of hits he's had to sustain, his body becomes susceptible to more injuries, and then that hampers his career, because he has massive potential if he can remain fit. So that is definitely something that when you think about it, yeah, it's very frustrating, because it's not gonna end with this match. Is going to continue as the season progresses, because of the precedents that Palmer has set for himself in terms of how important he can be for Chelsea. But just to touch on what Bobby said about players like Madueke, and this is one of the reasons why I'm frustrated. You and I can agree on Madueke, Garvon, and all of that, because to me, I would say that he's selfish at times, but and that is something where I wouldn't encourage someone to be selfish overall. But if you're gonna be selfish, if you see your teammate being targeted, you're supposed to pause and to say, okay, let me make myself the main man. Let me do something. Let me use that to an advantage. They're focusing on him. Let me use the avenue that is now open to make something happen for the team, or get a goal for myself. That is something that I have not seen him do. Rather than him benefiting the team, he even so much touched the team against against Leicester as well. So it's hilarious. But it is what it is. I'm just hoping that things do gets better. But I'm hoping that the players will actually take the opportunity. Although I wouldn't want Palmer to be the prey, or to be the one that sacrifices himself, the tragic hero, and all of those stuff. I don't want that to be the case. But if it does happen, I need the players to take the opportunities to step up. We saw that we were able to get goals from other players when Palmer wasn't the one that was doing all the work. But we definitely need it to be more consistent, and we need the attack and everything to work in our favor. But yeah, it's a positive look when we have other players being able to step up in the absence of the impact of Palmer.
Yeah, my take on Nonde Madueke. I think he's still got a lot of growing up to do. I think that he still want to be the star, the superstar. But if you want to be the star, in my humble opinion, you have to take advantage of this situation. And I think this game missed the likes of a Neto, because I know for a fact the space that Parma have, are left in between. I know that the likes of Neto would have take advantage of it. I know we would have scored more, because Neto is not only a player that's want to dribble, he's a player who play with his head up. He's always know where his teammate is making a run. Even if he don't make it correctly, but he always trying to play someone in or play someone through. So I know for a fact that if none of the way can continue this form that he's in for Chelsea, and no sooner or later he's gonna be on the bench. I know he's get calling up for England, and probably that's what get to him, because he's trying to hold on to that spot. But you have to remember, you get that opportunity, not because you were scoring so many goals. It was because of the link up with Cole Palmer and the assists that you guys was putting on together. So sometimes it's not only just about scoring goals, but even an assist can let you keep your spot. Because when he went to, if you notice, when he played for England, he's a different Nodi Madueke. Look at his assists. In the England team, since he went into the national team, I think he got like 3 assists and a goal, if I'm correct. Sir Bobby probably can correct me. But I think he got few assists since he's there in the international team. So it's not like he can do it. I think that he's competing against his teammates, which I think that is wrong. I think that he need to play more as a team player. I think that's what his biggest problem is. He can do it, but I think that he's trying to compete with Cole Palmer because he want to be the man. And to be the man, you have to beat the man, as the great Ric Flair said. To be the man, you have to beat the man, and to beat the man, you have to outshine him with goals and assists, and that's what he's not doing right now. Go ahead, Sir Bobby.
Yeah, I agree. Noni's frustrating. I was somebody that tried to defend him. I could see why um, Maresca plays him to get him to be in form, but his attitude is irritating now. I think he needs to be dealt with a bit harshly to get himself in order. He got in the way of a certain goal from Cole Palmer. I know that was a mistake, but you see all these little clumsy things that he does. He has the chance to score. He kicks the ball at the goalkeeper with a weak shot. He's irritating me now. I just don't see. Once a player becomes that wasteful, they become more of a hindrance than an asset. I want to see him do better. I really do. If not, then he has to sit on the bench. I mean, look at what people are saying, that Amari Hutchinson looks better as a right winger than Madueke. I think that will be difficult to argue at the moment. The only thing Madueke has is his physicality, but even then, you get him this idea where he doesn't even beat his man, and there are many frustrating things about him, and it needs to be addressed. He needs to do better.
As indefinite say right here, none is more ego than talent. And I say Sir Bobby, I watch him live, in preseason against Real Madrid, and I come back and I was telling Ty and Jerry, about what I see. I think definitely there's a talent there, but he just needs to get rid of the ego. But Sir Bobby, you make a suggestion about Exaval Williams, and I don't know if you watch the Brazilian league, but I watch a lot of the Brazilian league because I try to watch these players before they come over, especially if Chelsea link with them. So I got the app where I can watch the Brazilian league, and I'm gonna tell you the Brazilian league is a very physical league. And the Brazilian league is not as what people thought or think it is. Because I know a lot of people are saying that it's just a Brazilian league. Wonder if he can do it in Europe. But most of the players over there in the Brazilian league, especially the defenders, they're mostly players that used to play in Europe, not just for a small team in Europe, but top flight players that used to play in Europe is over there, and players that play for the Uruguay national team and so forth, even Argentina national team. So there's some very good talent there, and I'm telling you, it's a very physical league. But if you watch how he play, he's a very smart player. If you watch him play the whole 90 minutes, he's something like Nani Madueke, but the difference with him, he don't just try to dribble or try to beat a man just to beat a man. He's more likely looking for the pass or looking for the link up play. So he's not a player that really let this opponent get too close to him. He rather pass it and move in space to get it back, and then he do what he do best. Linking up play inside the opponent box or doing the assist. Because right now he's the most assist player in the league, and I think he is the top goal scorer in the Brazilian league. He break all the records if I'm correct. I think he need like 2 or 3 more goals to have 20 goal contribution. I think he scored 13 goals, or he make an assist yesterday. So I think I got 13 goals and 11 assists. So that to show you that he's a player that definitely know how to find the back of the net and also know how to assist. A big up
Well,
indefinite. Go ahead, Ty.
that's the thing. I don't think many people invest the time, which makes sense, to watch other leagues as well. So, I mean, we have players who are technically gifted. We have players that can actually give Madueke run for his money in particular, and even any other winger that we have. So it's about them recognizing that. But at the same time, obviously we have to remember that it won't be smooth sailing. It won't be perfect when those players even come in, because we've seen players like Endrick, for example. I think that's the name of the Brazilian who's at Real Madrid. I heard something about him potentially going out on loan, and he hasn't played for them despite the fact that they 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 invested in him, and I think they supposedly got him before Chelsea, who were linked with him and even flew him in and everything, just so he could see the training ground and all of that. So I think that is something we have to take into account as well. It won't be straightforward. And it's still going to be a case where they're going to have to adjust as well. It doesn't mean that they won't be able to, because as you said, that league is also technical. It's not just Brazilian league, so it's not in one of the top five leagues and all those stuff. It's actually one where you have to be able to have capabilities. You have to be potent. You have to be filled with a lot of the right mentality, and you have to be aware of the fact that it's not going to be easy. So that is something that I think cannot be discredited. I think a lot of football fans tend to do that, and it's due to the fact that that league doesn't get much recognition overall. But it'll be interesting to see what those players, when they come in and when they join up at the end of the season for pre-season, what we'll see. But definitely, we have to hope that the other players that we currently have recognize the fact that if they don't do it, there's going to be players that if they impress in pre-season, Maresca will be inclined to give them a chance ahead of them. So it's very important to take that into consideration.
Yeah, the word preseason is so important. This is where people like Andre Santos, indeed Esteval Williams himself, Kendry Payas, these kids have to show what they're about. I don't think anybody should have their position cast in stone. If someone comes and shows they're better than you, they have to step in. They have to step in, especially if they're a Chelsea player. Um, the club has shown it's quite ruthless to that extent in the way they've frozen out Raheem Sterling. Carney Chukwemeka, well, I think that's debatable, but that's another way they've sort of swung the axe to say, look, we don't want you, and that's that. So every player should be aware that that can happen to them. Another one, Ben Chilwell, axed from the main squad. Look, I don't watch the Brazilian league. It's not out of choice. It's because unless I use a VPN, we don't really have it shown in this country. Um, and if I use the VPN, I really wouldn't know what channel to go to. So perhaps if you could DM me what channel, I will take a look. Especially when Esteval Williams is playing. But that aside, we have to send a message to these players, which I believe we're starting to do. It just seems one or two of them are looking almost immune to it, but we have to let them know where they are. They're at Chelsea. Yes, we understand you're developing. Yes, you need time to develop. But if you start showing some attitudes, I mean, let's get to Nicholas Jackson. Nicholas Jackson is still in development, but his development is showing. He's improving month by month, not to mention season by season. From last season to this season, there is an obvious improvement, such that people are even saying, do we need another striker? He could well be the main striker. I personally think if there's another specialist striker that could come in, he would do well to be the alternative to that striker or to be the number two to that striker, because they're both proper strikers. Where does that leave Nkunku? That's another topic. But the improvement is there. Noni has improved, but the problem is he makes people dislike him. You can't do that. That attitude, that unnecessary, I have to be the main man when you're not really good enough. Um, he needs to be cut down to size. I don't know what he's like in the dressing room. He clearly doesn't upset Maresca, but I don't know. You see him on the pitch and he doesn't make himself likable. Let's put it that way. And therefore, that highlights his errors more. If you see him putting his head down, working hard, trying, people may have more patience with him. But I didn't like his attitude against Leicester. It just looked like it was a joke to him when he'd miss chances and all that. I don't want to see that. Um, yeah, I just, as I keep saying, I hope he does better. Not even so much in his game. Obviously, we hope he does better in his game, but he needs to clean up his attitude a bit. He's young, yes, but a young kid should take correction.
Yeah, we're gonna touch on the midfield. What does you let me see, because Enzo Fernandez, I've been in the media for a couple months, even like with me, so Ty, don't beat me for this time, but I know you already for gun blazing when I mentioned that name. But was a time when last season when honestly I want to see him out of the team, because whatever our ex Sir Bobby was doing, it wasn't working. He was struggling. We all could see that he was struggling. He was just need to take out of the firing line. It's just like we put him out there on a mission, and we just have them surround him, and we're just not finding a way out to get him out. But this season it was almost similar with the same thing for me. I think that when we're playing against the bigger teams, this is my problem when I got with Enzo Fernandez. When we play against the bigger teams, I don't think he can play against the bigger teams because of his first thing, his physical ability and his speed. I don't think that, especially playing against like an Arsenal or a City with those physical, midfielders, I think that he normally lose those battles. But against like the Leicesters or the mid-table team, I think that's where he can help Chelsea, and that's where I think we don't need the likes of a Caicedo and Lavia. Not saying he's not a Chelsea player, but I think that for me, the La Liga would suit him more, the Italian Serie A, because of the way how they play. But my humble opinion, I have nothing against him because he's a Chelsea player. I want to see him do good here. I know he can help the team because, as I said, I know that he will be good, playing against certain teams, but like the top four teams, like your Liverpool, and I don't think he really fit to play against those teams because of the demands that you're gonna need about on the ball and off the ball. I don't think he can do both sides well enough, to be quite honest. So but he got an excellent game against Leicester City. So I want to hear you guys' take on it. Ty, you can let Sir Bobby go first because I know you're gonna shoot me down. So
Well, look, Enzo is an excellent player. I really think he is. I think he is in the best place because he's one of those players that you don't need to play him or start him being the operative word every single game. The game against Leicester was suited for him and he did excellently. You're right, there will be some games that won't be that suited for him, especially when they're very tight, very physical, very tactical, very high press. That's more a Lavia, a Caicedo situation. But the fact that he's there and part of the rotation, the fact that Lavia could be benched, I think it's very healthy and I think it's very important for Chelsea going forward. He will be able to come off the bench sometimes for either Lavia or Caicedo. You see, you watch Real Madrid. Even Arsenal, all these teams rotate their midfielders. It just seems Chelsea expect their midfielders to play game in, game out, starting every game, not being substituted, plus all the international demands, and then wonder why they go off injured. Um, it's healthy, the situation right now. It really is, and I don't expect, or I don't think anybody should expect, that Enzo starts every single game. No, he is part of a rotating midfield, a healthy rotating midfield. This guy sometimes will come back from international break knackered. He can do with coming off the bench when that happens. They can do with having that respite from each other. As it was in this game, it was Caicedo that got substituted for Lavia. So he had a little respite. Lavia came off the bench and has continued what I would call his rehabilitation into being able to play 90 minutes. So it's not an issue at all. It's not an issue in any way, shape, or form. It's a wonderful thing that we're able to do that. And his career will benefit from that. Look at last season when he had that hernia and was having to play with injections. That's bad. That's very bad. This is how we ruin these kids and shorten their careers. Because as young kids like that, when they're still somewhat developing in their game and in their bodies, we're flogging them to do things that they really shouldn't be doing. Whereas if we had a fit Lavia then, he would have been able to go earlier and have his operation. So, no, I think it's okay. I think he's good for some games, and the games that he's good at, he has to start, and the games that he's not, he has to come off the bench. It's really that simple.
Go ahead, Ty.
Enzo's best performance was against Aston Villa last season. I agree with that. Um, hmm, yeah. Based on what Bobby just said as well, it's good that we were able to rotate. Lavia has proven to be a reliable player for us, but at the same time, we have to manage his minutes, and that is one of the scariest things when you have a player that has performed so good. It's going to let the manager become so happy that he may get ahead of himself, which is why I'm happy that Maresca has seen the importance of rotating and not starting Lavia immediately after his return, and then taking into account the fact that even in the match yesterday, Enzo was not taken off. Casado's one that was taken off, I believe, and it was Lavia and Enzo. So it still shows that he's open to trying to see what works best, or what will happen in the case where Casado may not be available, and you have to take that into consideration, considering the fact that Casado's been getting yellow cards like it's nothing. So that's another thing. But Enzo, I have to say that I don't think that he is a I don't think he's suited to the Premier League. I've actually said that yesterday as well when I did my match review, and persons didn't agree with me, which is fine. But I don't think he suits the Premier League in the sense of the tempo in which he plays. It reminds me so much of Jorginho's playing style, where he likes to calculate his next move. In the Premier League, you don't get to do that. Against the City, for example, where they were allowing us to have the ball and they didn't care much for it, you're able to make the next move. There was instances, yes, where he was able to make some quick movements. The chance that Palmer almost scored and came and nothing came out of it. The quick tempo, the level of counter attacking that happened with that move started from him, and most of the chances that were created, if and in all case, in any case, the goals that were scored, he had an impact in. But I don't think he suits the Premier League. I don't think he's gonna face off against teams like your Leicester Cities or who are going to allow you to have that time to calculate your next move. You have to think, you have to be instinctive, you have to make decisions in a second. And I don't think that he has the capability to do that, at least not right now. It doesn't mean that he can't become suited to the Premier League, but I don't think that he suits the Premier League, and that's why he's struggled a lot in the season so far. And even against Leicester City, when they started to look like they wanted to do something, we saw him struggle in terms of winning back the ball at times. He did win the ball back a couple of times, but there was instances where they were moving the ball around him quickly, and he couldn't do anything to really stop it. So I think that Enzo benefits the team in many ways. It benefits Lavia, who has proven to be a player that Maresca loves to start in the midfield. But at the same time, we have to take into account the fact that when we play Lavia and Casado, we don't have the creativity in that midfield. Enzo gives you creativity, albeit he has done that in all its glory this season, or consistently this season in the Premier League. But we need that creativity, and I don't think for the creativity that Casado can give you and Lavia, it's not at the level at which Enzo, if he has a good game, can. So I wouldn't say that the verdict should be casted on him, but I definitely can agree that I don't think the Premier League is suited to him. I think if he was in a different league, he would be doing tremendous. I think if he was at Real Madrid, they would be extremely happy because they have players who are getting older. I think Tony Cruz and Modric and all of that, those players that are slowly coming to the closing parts of their careers, and they definitely need someone that's younger to help them. So definitely, I don't think he suits the Premier League, but things can change.
I just want to add something to this, if I may. Um, are you there, Gavin? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry, I mute myself. Sorry. Go ahead,
It's
sir.
it's interesting to me. I understand the take, but I think very differently. If Enzo goes anywhere, he will still come off the bench, especially at Madrid. He will definitely come off the bench. It just is so amazing to me. I mean, you look at um uh uh what's his name? Mason Mount. Mason Mount is coming off the bench for Man United. Nobody talks. When he was coming off, when he even dared go near the bench for Chelsea, the fan base was incandescent. It's crazy. Um, Jorginho, he's always on the bench for Arsenal. Nobody says a word. If he's on the bench for Chelsea, our own fan base starts saying, "Oh, he needs to leave." I mean, we have even Havertz, even less so, but he comes off the bench. Enzo Fernandez will start more games than he doesn't for Chelsea. There are lots of games that will suit him. Many clubs low block Chelsea because of our offensive power in the Premier League. I believe that's when he thrives the most because he's less under pressure and he can weave his artistry more noticeably. There's a place for that at Chelsea. He has no more place at Real Madrid than he does at Chelsea. And I just can't subscribe to this looking at other clubs that our players should go and thrive. We've made 106 million investment in this player and gave him a 9.5 year contract. The club is not looking in any way, shape, or form of getting rid of Enzo Fernandez. What the club is doing is looking for how they can play him within the arsenal of players they're building up. And that's the right way, in my opinion. I'm not looking outside for Enzo. I think Enzo has shown what he can do for us. Now we have to apply that in a starting situation to suitable games. And there will be games he'll come off the bench. That shouldn't be a problem to us at all.
Yes, sir. The last topic for the show, because I have to go to my niece gender reveal shower in a few. So but I cannot leave without we talk about this guy, Nicholas Jackson. And my opinion, I think he's a better player than Erling Allen. People can say I'm crazy or not, and I'm not gonna stop say this because this is my opinion, and I have my reason why I think he's a better footballer than that Erling Allen. Erling Allen, if you don't provide for him, he can't score. If you don't put it where he can top it in, he's a goal scoring machine. Don't get me wrong. Erling Allen is a goal scoring machine. In my opinion, he is one of the best finishers since R9. Not gonna take that away from him. He's one of the best finisher I ever see since R9. But as a complete football player, in my opinion, Nicholas Jackson is a better football player overall than Erling Allen. If Nicholas Jackson can work on his finishing, which this season you can see the difference in his finishing. He started to find many different ways to finish, and it's gonna take time, yes. But we have to look at the situation. He's coming from a league where he didn't get the proper development like what he would get in Europe, because playing in Africa as a third world country where the development is not as good as what it would be in Europe. And to see he went to I think what we were buying from again, Villarreal, and then he moved to Chelsea. Last season, he done very well for himself by scoring goals, and this season you can see that he's still scoring goals. So by time goes, I think that he will develop as a very good goal scorer in the Premier League. I think that we just need time, and I think in my opinion, as I'm gonna say one more time, I'm gonna repeat that I think he is a better footballer than Erling Allen. Say I'm crazy, I don't care, but I think that he is a better footballer. I would pay to go watch a Nicholas Jackson play than Erling Allen, of what he brings to the team overall and the game in general. So I don't know, Ty or Sir Bobby. Anyone want to take that one first?
Um, okay. Uh, since it should be something that is very subjective, um, I'll say I believe Nicholas Jackson is an excellent player. I think yet again he certainly last season was a victim of people not understanding that we are a developing team, and he is part of that development. And he's showing what development outcomes can be in what he's doing. Um, I have to agree with you to a certain extent. I think Nicholas Jackson is certainly a more complete footballer than Erling Haaland. Haaland is just a goal poacher. Nicholas Jackson can do everything. He drops into midfield, he can play on the flanks, he can play forward, and occasionally even help the defense. He is the complete player. And I think he may end up being Chelsea's main striker, because even if a specialist striker vis-a-vis the likes of Gyökeres or Osimhen comes to Chelsea, it would only up his game. I hope it doesn't happen this season. I think Nicholas will benefit from being used as that main man, such that he will develop better, having that responsibility on his shoulders. And let's be honest, he hasn't let us down. He's now joint top scorer at Chelsea with Cole Palmer, 7 goals each. In the Premier League, I think he's only behind Erling Haaland, who plays in an already established team, who feed him all the time and takes penalties. Remember, Jackson's goals are all in open play. So I think he's an excellent player, and I hope we continue to persist with his development, because he's one of those players that shows us that it yields dividends. We are all our players are under development. He's not unique in that sense, but he is unique in the fact that his improvement is undoubtable.
Well, um, yeah, you've made that statement many times, Garvin. Jackson being better than Holland, and many people will not agree with that. I mean, I understand what you're saying as well. Uh, I mean, I've said it in the sense of what Erling Haaland is as a player. He can he can do so much things in terms of being a goal machine, but I mean, it shows that if he's not having a good game in terms of scoring, he's not going to have a good game overall, and we've seen that especially based on the form that City have had in recent weeks. So I think that it's more about what Jackson does overall. Jackson is not just a player who looks to score goals. Even last season, people were not seeing that Jackson was doing way more than the fact that he was scoring goals. You know, people were comparing him to Verna in other ways, but he's actually surpassed Verna in terms of the fact that he's been able to offer more than just scoring goals. He's been a creator. He created opportunities yesterday, and Madueke wasted one of those chances as well. But we saw that, especially with the fact that Felix was playing, how flexible Jackson is to a team. Felix flexible as well, because Felix was supposedly supposed to be the one that was central, not central, the one supposed to be wide, but he ended up being central a couple of times, and Jackson going wide as well. We saw that flexibility there, and that is what those two players offer. But Jackson has been a positive player. I've always been a person that has backed the player to do better, and I'm happy that he's done that. I still think we're lacking that player that has that striker rather that has the killer instinct. I think Jackson has done well. He could do somewhat better, but I can't complain because he's done way better than how he started off last season. So I'm happy for him. He's more clinical. The way that he decides to strike the ball is completely different from last season, and he's doing way better. So I'm happy for him, and I hope that it continues because he's actually done well. And we're still linked to strikers, so I don't think we will not go for a striker again. I still think we will, and we do need a striker because even if Jackson continues to perform well, we're gonna miss his presence when he goes off to the African Cup of Nations. So we will have to do without what he's doing right now eventually, and that will open up avenues for certain players such as Nkunku and even Felix to some extent, although he's not necessarily a striker but can chip in as a false nine. So he's done well. I'm happy for Jackson, and I hope he continues to perform at the level he's performing and even better.
Yeah, last season when Jackson started out last season, this is my last take on Jackson, but last season when he started off, if you notice how deep he was dropping and to make those run, by the time he reached at the end of the 18-yard box, it caught up with him. You have to learn how to adjust your feet and stuff. So I think that's one of the main reasons why a lot of people misjudge him because they don't look on the work he was doing last season by dropping from so deep to help defend and then try to be the one on the end of that cross, that put in. That takes a lot out of a player. This season you can see that he's dropping deep, but not that deep like last season. But you can see the runs that he have to make is not that far away from goal, is a little bit closer, even though he's still dropping here and there to pick up the ball or to drive. So you can see a difference in his finishing. Like he's learning how to adjust his feet once he make those run to put the ball in the back of the net. And that's why I'm saying, like, if he continue to work on adjusting his feet properly, and being closer to the goal than like a Erling Allen, don't surprise if the numbers are closer. I think that he's a very talented young man. I think that he got a long way to go. If he can work on his part, that stop getting these cards, yellow cards, and necessary and more focus, I think that he definitely, can put in some good numbers for us. Last question, guys, before we close off the show. I know I said that one would be the last one, but I didn't remember about this one. Um, it's just a bold question. If you guys think that we got the let me see the pictures. I did have it up earlier, but I think that we got Aston Villa, then Southampton, and then Everton. If you guys think we come through this December period, with at least 5 wins out of the 6 games I think we got so close to the January, would you say that we can be a title contender? Because a lot of the media, reason why I asked this question, a lot of the media right now is pushing the narratives that Chelsea is in a title race. Which I think is still too early, but it's something that we I would like to hear you guys' opinion on.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that. I think it's important that we do win those games, but as well for finishing in the top four purposes. But to talk of the title now, I am in agreement with you. It's too early. It's also unfair pressure on this young team. That's the youngest team in the Premier League, and a developing team. We can't lose sight of that. So no, I wouldn't say that at all. What I would say is that we've seen how Liverpool were lucky to beat Southampton today. Every team is a challenge, is a very tough challenge. I think on Sunday, Villa won't be easy either. That's another very tough team. And everybody tends to want to up their game when they face Chelsea anyway. So, yeah, we need to win those games. And what I'll be talking about is our chances of being in the top four before I even start to even think of winning the Premier League this season. And remember, the points are very close in the top eight. People like Brighton, they have a point to make, and they're making it. So our focus. Let's just talk of the top four. I'm just talking in general. I'm not saying that the question is bad, but in general, let's just be about the top four. And if by any chance, come May, we're close, or April we're close, then we can say, okay, maybe we'll try for the title. But no, now it's all about making sure we maintain that top four, top three position.
100% correct, because that's how I think too, Sir Bobby. What do you say, Ty?
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can.
No, I didn't hear.
Oh, I was saying, what you take if you think Chelsea's title contendant, because a lot of the pundits started pushing now that Chelsea is in a title race. But me and Sir Bobby
Oh
agree,
my
guys. I don't
goodness.
think we are.
No, no, we're not. We're not in the title race. In terms of our squad, we're not in the title race. We're in close proximity to first place and and to second place by 1 point. But the same is for Arsenal. And I even had this discussion in the past recently about if we are title contenders or just pretenders and all of that. But I don't think we are. The squad isn't ready for it. The team is still young, and I don't think that is the objective. We should slowly try to work our way up. We can become title challengers eventually and soon, but we need to take it step by step, not rushing the process because it takes time. We still need to sign certain players. We definitely can't be in the title race with a goalkeeper who is shaky with the ball at his feet and makes poor decisions. So I definitely wouldn't say we're in the title race.
Anything else you want to add to this, Sir Bobby?
No, nothing else to add.
I want to say thank you for each and every one that's watching. Over 30 something people was watching earlier. I want to say thank you to each and every one, and I want to say most respect to Sir Bobby. Thank you, sir. It's been a long time. I really appreciate it. I want to say thank you to the one and only Ty, Chelsea Session, bro, that's always here, always hold me down. So I want to say thank you to the community. I want to say big up to Rich Money Maker, get better and get well soon, bro. Myron, Miss Rosie, everyone was there, indefinite. I'm not going to be able to scroll through it to find each and every one. I just want to say thank you to everyone that's tuned in. And
please get well soon, Rich Moneymakers. Absolutely. Sorry to cut it.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine, Sir Bobby. Yeah, so I just want to say thank you to everyone. I'm sorry I have to end the stream because my niece, she's supposed to do her gender reveal today. So we were gonna know what type of baby she's gonna have. So I'm gonna just head off over there. So I'll say thank you to each and everyone and see you guys next time. Peace.
Successful, I feel. All the memories come flooding back, hit different. I've changed a lot, friends list got thinner. Ain't tripping about enemies, true and stay hidden. He was lurking, so we made sure he went missing. Told the fakers to leave, but they wouldn't listen. They faulty, now they gotta watch me glisten. They ain't silent, like some snakes, they stay hissing. Spreading words and rumors, they gon' keep dissing.